Hello and welcome to this episode of Catching the Octopus Podcast. I mentioned in my last episode, and I have mentioned a little bit in my social media posts about not always having been a good person. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit of that in this episode and look at how we could have shown up in different ways in the past, how we can change that into moving into the future. Now, my behaviours when I was young, into my teenage years, probably early 20s, were very self-serving. So I had a need for control because of the stuff that happened to me earlier on in life. And because of some of the environment growing up, I felt like I didn't have a lot of control. And that didn't manifest very healthily, if I'm being honest. So a lot of the times that manifested in actual bullying and violence towards people, trying to feel like I had control. Now, it was just an overview of looking at it in the wrong way, right? Because the only thing we can control, and I say this all the time, is how we feel, how we think, and how we behave. And because I didn't have a good grasp of that, I tried controlling things externally to me, which is where my failure came through. And that resulted in me, firstly, with my siblings. I wasn't always the best person towards them, probably especially to my sister. My sister had very fiery personality and very defiant personality is probably the better wording for that. And because she was so self-assured and confident in the way that she showed up, she would often have conflict with me, and I would turn to physical coercion to try and get her on board with how I wanted her to behave. Not cool. I also did this in the school bus setting. On the school bus, when it changed to, my area being the first ones picked up, I had seat allocations for people. Like, this is pretty shitty stuff that I'm sharing with you, but I want to be open and honest, right? But, if people I got along with got more flexibility, people I didn't get along with copped pretty much my wrath. And that was also evident in where we had, in the area I lived in, we're having a bit of a party at our house, and one of the kids in the area popped in that I didn't like, and I told them they weren't welcome. They needed to leave, and ended up, unfortunately, they said to me, well, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to make me leave? And this was a male who's quite bigger than me, a bit older than me. And I was like, oh, I'll hit you with the shovel. And he's gone, go on, dare you to. And unfortunately, back in that day as well, if someone dared me to do something, I did it because I needed to show that I was tough and strong. And unfortunately, I hit him with the shovel. Now, the stranger thing about this is, back in those days, I was so proud of that behavior. I was proud that I was strong and I held my convictions and I showed up. But it wasn't cool. And over time, I started realizing that this behavior wasn't conducive to me. I also had interactions with other people in my early 20s where they did me wrong. And if someone did me wrong, then my mission was to get them back, to show them that they wronged the wrong person. And I would definitely say I had psychopathic tendencies. Like, some of the things I did were quite dangerous in affecting people's physical environments. And although at the time I was pretty proud of what I did because I thought it was really cool, because I was like this really person to be feared and this person that was really strong in their convictions, I look back at it now and I'm quite embarrassed about my behavior. I won't say I regret my behavior, because I believe everything that happens in your life leads you to where you need to be. So the good, the bad, the ugly. And this is definitely the ugly that was instilled in me through my belief systems in what I needed to do to be able to show up effectively in the world. It wasn't helping me show up effectively in the world at all. It was building my ego. It was an inflated sense of self. And it made me feel that I had some element of control, which then made me feel okay internally, right? I had quite a childhood that wasn't structured in a way that gave me a lot of stability. And so that was when I felt most stable, is when I felt I had the ability to influence the environment around me, even though that was in a negative way. And so now that comes into karmic relationships, right? So what you put out, you get back. And I look over my life and I've had a lot of things happen to me which I've been pretty disappointed in, and like the whole woe, why me, woe is me, or this is happening to me. But it has karmic relationships, and karma doesn't just come from this life either. And if you expand your thinking, there's karmic debts that we're paying back from previous lives as well, and things that we've done. But even this life alone, if I just look at this life for myself, I created a lot of karmic ramifications that were coming through my life. And if you've been in a similar situation and you're trying to get your life back on track, and now I realize that how I treat someone else is how I'm going to be treated, not necessarily by them, but by the vibration around me, by other people coming in. If I steal, then things will be stolen from me. If I lie, then people are going to lie to me. If I cheat, then life is going to cheat me. And I've really structured myself in a different space. Now, I still do have people lying to me, even though I don't lie. And I still have people cheating me, even though I don't cheat, because it's paying back that karmic debt of when I used to do those things myself. So how do I reduce the effect of that? Well, one way of reducing the effect of that is setting up some karma credits, right? Setting up your life with so much positive karma that it can actually offset that debt. And so when those things come back to you, they either come back to you in a less hurtful way, something that has less impact on your life, or you have more skills to be able to adapt and process what's happening, or in some cases, it actually cancels it out, so you don't have to experience that anymore. And so even though I'm paying off that karmic debt from when I was just a terrible, horrible person, I'm actually now trying to set up enough karma credits so that I can actually start creating abundance in my life and bringing in all of those good things, because that's what I'm giving out to the world around me. Now, how do you do that? Lots of different ways. I volunteer a lot of time in things that have meaning to the community. So the time I volunteer creates a ripple effect that creates positivity in the community around me. Big karma credit. One of the aspects that I volunteer in is around homelessness. Another one is in road safety. Another one is advocating for women and girls that are less fortunate than most. So I'm looking at different areas that, one, they are passions to me now, because as I've come into this new space of the way I look at the world, I just intrinsically want to give back. I want to do good things. But the bonus of doing that is getting all of these karma credits. Now, if you're not like me and you don't intrinsically want to help the people around you, you can force yourself to do that and you still get those karma credits, right? It's not evaluated on, oh, but did they really want to do this or not? It's, did you do it? That's what's seen from the energetic level around you, right? From that vibrational environment and the source element. So why donate in those spaces? I often donate my time as well to different other causes. A couple of weeks ago, a cricket club, Donnybrook Cricket Club, needed someone to come and talk about mental health to their group. I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And I donated my time. And so there was about 20 or 30 people there that I spoke about the mental health spectrum and how we vary up and down that spectrum, and things that we can do to try and stay on the positive end of that, rather than slipping down into the more unhelpful end of that. And so that I was able to then, even if 2 people took out what I spoke about and made some changes in their life that positively influenced them and their families and their friends, and how that ripples out, then I'm setting up some karma credits. I donate to different charities and different organisations that actually help people in the community. Rural Aid is one of them. So that's an organisation that looks after farmers and tries to help farmers during droughts and floods and things like that. Some of the ones around helping children and, those are misfortunate and hunger, all of those sorts of things where I can donate. I do donate in those spaces as well. So I'm giving my time, I'm financially contributing, and then I'm also just contributing on how I treat other people now. So I had a situation a couple of weeks back where some people that I probably haven't been getting along with, that I've kind of pushed a little bit away from, that I've pulled myself in, in my life. And there was a group chat and there was a couple of comments made that were a little bit of a dig at me. Now, in the past, that would have triggered in the earlier, teens, early 20s time, that would have triggered Gnomes to go, right, how can I get back at them? I need to get back at them. Whereas now I look at that and, if I'm honest, I probably worded up about 10 different responses, right, on how I could respond to that and respond to them. And in the end, I was just like, no, I don't need the drama. I don't need the vibration. I don't need the cognitive load of having to think about this anymore. And so I just removed myself from the group and removed myself from that environment. So that's like how big the shift has been from where I have been to where I am now. And so that ends up getting you some karma credits as well, because you're not feeding into that, right? And any response that I would have done would have been to defend me. And by defending me, usually that entails putting someone else down or making someone else feel bad. And so I sat in that and thought about that. And I thought, look, that's not my intention. And if they're people that I have to defend myself to, then they're people that I don't want in my circle anyway. Because the people I want in my circle, I want those people that see me, right? Not wanting to trigger me and wanting to create drama for me. And so there are ways that you can set up some really good karma credits to be able to move forward and have a life that creates more of that abundant stuff, right? Offsets some of the karmic debt that you have. Now, if we're talking about karma, I'm just going to go a little step further as well, because I often see people who have had things done wrong by them that will often say, oh, they'll get their karma one day, right? I'm not doing anything because they'll get their karma. Now, for starters, if you're having ill thoughts about them, or when you're sharing the story, you're sharing it in a negative way to influence and create ill thoughts towards them from others, you're actually generating negative karma for yourself, right? Because it's all intention. It's all the vibration. If you're sending them negative thoughts, if you're being mean to them, even if it's not physically in their face, if you're doing that in your own energetic space, that's still what you're sending out to the world, right? And that's what you're going to attract back. And sometimes we don't actually sit in there and think about it a little bit more and go, was their behavior actually my karma coming back to me? So like maybe it's not about them getting karma for their bad behavior. Maybe it's about sitting back and going, I wonder why I attracted that to me. What is it in me that needs to change or adapt so that I don't find myself in those situations, or I don't find myself around those kinds of people, or I don't find myself attracting that into my sphere? And that's the part we often miss, because if someone does us wrong, a lot of people, me in my childhood, early 20s, are wired to want to pay that behavior back. Now, just like we're actually wired, if someone helps us, we're wired to want to help them back. We have that other tendency as well, unless we address it. Excuse me. So when we look at what someone's done to us, the first thing we're going to automatically just jump into is feeling attacked, taking it personally, all of those things, which then create a knee-jerk reaction. But really what we should be doing is looking at that and going a little bit deeper. And as I said, thinking about, why has that landed in my lap? Sometimes it's beyond our control. Sometimes it is just karmic debt coming back. But there are other times as well that it may be trying to teach us something. It may be trying to teach us about where our thought patterns are. Are we sitting in a lower vibration, so we're attracting behaviors that connect with that lower vibration? Have we had an instance where someone's done something wrong to us and then we're actually sending them all the bad vibes, right? Gossiping about them, talking about them badly, creating all that bad energy around them, which then sets us up to be in a space where we attract that back in. So even when bad things happen to us that are unfathomable bad things, that you can't find a reason for, you can't see how that might be beneficial for you in the long run, there are sometimes underlying energetic reasons for why that happened. And even if that allows you to take a step back and say, oh, okay, how am I going to ensure I don't find myself in this position again? Then it has had some benefit, right? It has allowed us to make some sort of shift. And there's been some terrible things that have happened to me throughout my life that I would never wish on anyone, enemies or anyone else, that I look at and at the time were very difficult to see how they could benefit me. But if anything else, a lot of them have actually turned me into a person that has a lot of empathy, and I advocate for people that sometimes don't have the same level of voice that I do. You may have seen that I put up a post about I don't celebrate Australia Day at the moment because I don't feel that there's fairness and equity around the date that's chosen. I very much push in the advocacy space for women and girls and trying to get some sort of recognition around domestic violence situations, or how the court system is set up to not protect the victims, but more so protect the abusers. So all of those things have pushed me into a space where I'm starting to become louder in the areas where I may be able to make a difference at a community level for other people, even though it may not actually directly affect me anymore. Excuse me. And so, although I can't sometimes see a definite benefit straight away, some of these things really shift you, right? I had a friend of mine who very sadly and tragically lost her partner to a bee sting, an allergy. And it's very hard for us to find a purpose or a reason when we lose a loved one, especially someone that's so cherished, especially someone so young, especially in such a tragic way, especially when we have to witness that. But in conversations with her, she has now become a big advocate around the allergy space and trying to educate people and trying to bring more goodness into the world within that environment. And so, although that may not seem that it offsets the loss of a life, it's a frog in my throat today, and it never should equate to the loss of a life, there is some small meaning that can come from that she's been able to now draw from to share in the world around her. And, you know, tip of the cap to her. She's just an amazing person, and I hope that she gets all the success that she's looking for in trying to create some meaningful change in that space. And so whether it's, you know, child trauma, whether it's other trauma in your different relationships. I mean, for me, both of my long-term relationships ended in ways that were very hurtful to me, that really made me question everything around me. And I look at that now and I do go, okay, what was my contribution to that? Now, I don't actually engage in any of the behaviours, that were associated with the end of those relationships. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, that's not a karmic repayment for that, right? It may be from a previous life. I don't know. I haven't gone into that. But from looking at this life alone, I then go into, well, okay, that's happened. We could almost say 3 times. My high school boyfriend, something similar kind of happened. Wouldn't be the same, but a little bit similar. So I'm like, okay, every long-term relationship I've had has ended in a similar way. The only regular thing around that, or the only thing that's congruent or is present in each of those situations is me, right? It's a common denominator in this space. So I'm like, okay, how have I contributed to that? And when I say this, I'm looking more from that, what am I attracting kind of space, because I don't feel that any behaviors in the relationship could justify the behaviors that happened, right? That's my just personal belief. So I started looking at it, well, okay, what am I attracting here? There's obviously something within me that's attracting people that are capable of doing these things, and I don't want to do that again. So what do I need to shift? How do I need to show up differently? How can I actually start creating some really positive karma around my life that then sets me at an elevated vibration, so I'm actually starting to attract in people that sit up here? And I found, as I do start elevating, there are people that I had a lot of connection with that have started falling away. And although that's very heartbreaking and created a lot of sadness in me and a lot of healing I needed to do, I can look at that now and go, well, okay, that's why, because they weren't that vibrational match. And I'm putting out there that I want to attract in someone that's going to be supportive of me, and I've got a whole list of other things as well. And to be able to do that, I need to be vibrating at a level that actually does attract that same person in. And so that means there are going to be people that drop away that no longer resonate with me. And that's okay. It does, it did trigger up some abandonment wounds and, being not enough wounds and all those sorts of things. And that's good as well, right? Because then I get to process them and do healing through that. And that is another contributor to leveling up and increasing your vibrational space. So, look, I firsthand know that people aren't perfect because I'm not. I firsthand know that people can change because I have drastically changed from the person I was. But I suppose inherently within me, though, there always was some good. I always did have good within me. It's just that when I was actually triggered, I didn't have the control over my thoughts, my emotions, or my behaviors. And so that manifested in ways that hurt the people around me. And it's really disappointing for me that I actually contributed to that in this world, because that's not what I align with now. But I have to have acceptance. That's where I was. At that place, at that time, I didn't know any better. And for me, the challenge is to not only know better, but to do better. And so, if anything, I hope you get out of this episode that regardless of what goes around in your environment that's around you, regardless of what you've had to endure during your lifetime, regardless of what you're having to endure right now, you are the master of how you show up. You get to control how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And you get to control the karmic influence you have over what you want to draw in and what you want to repel. And so I hope you get to attract all of the greatness that you deserve. And I look forward to serving you again in our next episode.